Michael Pollan is the author of 5 books, including New York Times bestsellers The Botany of Desire and The Omnivore's Dilemma, his 2006 opus on the American food system. He is a professor of journalism at the University of California at Berkeley, a regular contributor to the New York Times Magazine, a former editor at Harper's Magazine, and it's my pleasure to welcome him here this morning to Sun Valley and to Chiro's Market. Good morning, Michael. How are you?
Thank you, Michael.
Absolutely.
Good. Very nice to meet you.
So, Chiro's Market is not exactly your typical American convenience store, fast food joint. You're traveling a lot, delivering speeches. How do you eat on the road, which is a pretty hard place?
Well, it's a challenge in some ways. I mean, I have many nights where I'm talking to people about how to think through their food choices with respect to health and the environment, and then I'm stuck with on an airplane eating airline food or in a hotel dining room. So it's kind of hard to practice what you preach when you're on the road. That said, I try to keep it simple. Usually when I'm at a restaurant that doesn't show any signs of consciousness about sourcing food and is really doing the usual, where can we get it cheapest, I won't order meat. I'll usually get a vegetarian entree as a way to kind of avoid things I don't want to eat. But on the upside, since I talk about food when I'm welcome to a community like this, they end up taking me to really nice places that prepare really good food that's very much in keeping with what I believe in.
Now, is there anything safe in the typical convenience store? If you were to walk in and...
Yeah, I'm sure you can find things. Nuts. If I'm really hungry and I have to buy food where I'm gassing up my car, I would be more likely to look for nuts or something like that as a quick snack that is fairly healthy and not too processed. And look how many ingredients are in it. If it's got 1 or 2 ingredients, you're better off than if it has 10.
And when you say you'll eat vegetarian when you go out, does that mean you'll stick just to vegetables and fruit and nuts, or will you go for
pastas,
for protein, things like tofu and?
I like tofu. I mean, I don't know when the last time I saw tofu on a hotel menu though. I mean,
right.
They haven't gotten that news yet.
Yeah. Now, you've talked a lot about our national eating disorder here in this country and elevating food to a new level of consciousness, and that sounds like a pretty big task. How do you suggest we go about doing that for most Americans who don't really want to know where their chicken comes from?
Well, in some sense they don't want to know, but they're intensely curious, actually, at the same time. I mean, it's kind of, we block all sorts of things out to get through the day. But as soon as you ask someone, so do you have any idea where that chicken comes from? Suddenly they're like, some people say, yeah, no, I don't want to know. But other people are like, well, do you know? Can you tell me? So I think there's more curiosity today about where food comes from than there has been in a long time. And that curiosity flows from a sense of worry and anxiety. I mean, there have been so many food safety scares, and not scares, I mean food safety crises going on. And that people, and they read about food coming in from China and the adulteration of that food, and that people are concerned, and they realize that they've kind of lost control of their food, the food they're feeding their family.
Right.
And they want to regain that control. And the only way to regain that control is to be conscious.
How do you suppose the next generation, today's kids, are going to learn about the fact that food comes from the earth and not from a package?
Well, I think we have to teach kids in school. I mean, I think that, look, knowing about your food, knowing how to prepare your food, to some extent knowing how to grow your food, these are critically important life skills that we have outsourced for too long, and the result has been this generation of overweight kids with unprecedented rates of type 2 diabetes, and we need to begin teaching children in school about where their food comes from. We need to have gardens in school so that they can learn where food comes from and see it in a hands-on way. It has to be a sensory education about food. We have to teach them how to cook it, and then we have to teach them how to eat it, which sounds kind of funny, but the fact is that we are teaching them how to eat food in schools. We're just teaching them how to eat junk food and be fast food eaters. I mean, when you serve kids, tater tots and chicken nuggets, and you give them 10 minutes to eat lunch, you are giving an education in becoming a fast food consumer. not to mention the damage you're doing to their health. So we have to teach them a healthier way of eating and a more enjoyable way of eating. And that's a big project for a society, but that's where it's going to happen.
Right. Now, I'm picturing here schools with what you're saying, gardens and kitchens in the school. Are you proposing a new home ec, or is this more of a new science project?
Well, it's interesting. Food, as I've learned as a writer, is a subject. It's a truly multidisciplinary subject, and you can use food. You can organize a curriculum around food that touches on all the different subjects at different points. I mean, you can learn about chemistry through food. You can learn about biology through food. You can learn about cultures, multiculturalism through food. So you can do I think you need to do two things. I think you need to first have a cooking class like home ec that's part of the curriculum, and you have to look at the school lunch that's being served, get kids involved in the preparation of that lunch through their home ec class, get them to sit down at a table and eat. Some people say you should do recess first and let them burn off that energy, and then sit them down to eat, and you'll get a much more civilized meal. But then in the other classes, to the extent it makes sense, food should be an element in the curriculum.
What do you suggest for those of us, maybe not the food faithful, but just everybody on the street, everybody watching this show today? What are we to eat aside from potatoes and onions all winter in this sort of climate?
It's not an all or nothing proposition. We do what we can when we can do it. Right. I mean, if you live in a place like this, you're not going to be able to eat local 12 months of the year. There's also meat here. There's wonderful meat production. And traditionally what people did in the winters in places where there wasn't a lot of fresh produce is they did eat root vegetables and tubers and things like that, and and cabbages took the place of lettuce and things like that. And they ate more meat in the winter and then less in the summer. And so we have to get back in touch with that sort of seasonal eating.
If you could tell someone who has never encountered the food movement, never thought about eating local, what is it in a nutshell, and what can they do if all of a sudden they're seeing you for the first time and saying, I'm curious about this, I want to get involved?
Well, I just leave you with this thought. You're eating, I'm a writer very interested in nature, like a lot of people who come to this area, very interested in the natural world. We tend to think of nature as something that happens out there. It's in the wilderness and we observe it or we participate in a recreational way. But in fact, your most profound engagement with the natural world, the place where you affect it more than anything else you do, is on your plate. It is through agriculture that we've changed the landscape more than anything else we've done as a civilization. It is through agriculture that we've changed the composition of species. The reason why there are 110 million cattle in this country and only a few thousand wolves is because of our choices about we favor this species, we eat this one, that species challenges the species we eat. We are now learning that through our eating, we have changed the atmosphere. Food choices have more impact on climate change than anything else we do. More than transportation, more than the way we heat our homes. So you have a lot of consciousness about that kind of issue, but less about food's role in it. If, say, you decide you're going to give up meat one day a week, that would be a dramatic contribution. I mean, if all Americans followed suit and we gave up meat one day a week, it would be the equivalent of taking between 20 and 40 million cars off the roads in this country. I look at it not as a burden, but an opportunity. Because the great thing about food is, when you change that light bulb and you go from that incandescent to that fluorescent, honestly, the fluorescent light is really ugly. You've made a sacrifice in the beauty that surrounds you. When you make the choice to eat in a better way, you have made the more beautiful choice. Because the right choice for the environment, the right choice for the animals, the right choice for the farmers, happens to be the right choice for you in terms of taste and quality. This food tastes better. It is better. The only sacrifice is price. It costs more. And the thing to realize is, though, that like everything else in life, you get what you pay for. We all understand that a good car costs more than a lousy car. Same is true with an egg or a lamb chop. And when you realize what you get for that additional spending on that egg or lamb chop and what you give, I think that it really starts to look like it is worth it.